She wanted love, but not the way her mother had it. She wanted something she'd never heard of before.
Dale. This was our We Are So Cool moment.
Yeah.
So this was, we're talking about On Swift Horses, written by Shannon Pufahl. I hope I'm saying her name right.
Yeah, I don't know. We
I tried to find it on social media, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So Shannon wrote this really beautiful novel.
Yeah, it is.
And we did something we don't ever do.
Mm-hmm.
We were invited to a screening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You girls want a screening at Sony, and we had not read the book yet.
No, we hadn't.
It was kind of like, do you guys want to talk to this author? We were like, yes.
Yeah, we got like the blurb of the book, and that was really all we knew. And we were like, yeah, this sounds good.
Sound beautiful.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, I did not know what to expect.
No.
Truly, not for 1 second did I know what this was going to be about. They sent us a little trailer. You've got Will Poulter, Daisy Edgar Jones, and Jacob Elordi. I don't care if they're reading the phone book. I am going to watch that.
Yeah.
And the movie ended, and we both looked at each other, and I was like, by the way, crying, both of us.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was beautiful.
Then we get our hands on the book.
I mean, come on. And I will just say, for Cocktail, this was a fun one for me.
Okay.
Because usually I try to match it to the book or movie or show or whatever we're doing, or just do whatever I want to do. This one, I didn't have to even think about it.
Yeah.
Because she orders a stinger.
Yeah.
In the bar, in the movie.
In the Chesterfield?
In the Chester.
Chester.
And she orders it in the book. And it's a cocktail that's just cognac, brandy, your choice. And it's just white creme de menthe, clear creme de menthe. Usually garnished with a nice mint leaf. You can do it up in like a coupe glass, or you can do it on a big, large rock and just like a little stir. It's a really popular cocktail at that time. And it was like it used to be known as an upper society drink. It was really popular during the Prohibition era.
Okay.
And that is because creme de menthe would mask the taste and smell of shitty brandy, because back then, people were making stuff themselves. So it kind of died out in the 1970s. But during this time, it was a very popular cocktail amongst the higher class, the upper class. And it's a kind of just very fitting. Also, like an after dinner drink, something you're going to drink to enjoy the taste of, a digestif, if you will. And the fact that she orders that as her cocktail in the bar, it just like shows how uncomfortable she is, and she just orders this thing that she's really comfortable with.
Fair.
And okay, so that's what we're drinking, but let's talk. Let's dive in.
All right, so I was kind of like, this is an interesting one for me because it's a very heavy. This was a very, I don't know if heavy is the right word. This was a very deep book, and it touches on a lot of stuff that as well as the movie touches on, but it's done in just this beautiful, like her novel is like a poet wrote it.
Her writing, her prose, is gorgeous.
It's beautiful, and
it is beautiful,
and there's so much depth to her characters, to her, like it's told in the point of view of our main girl, Mariel, and
also Julius,
and exactly, and it kind of jumps back and forth, and same as the movie. Obviously, when you have like a 2 POV, you have to kind of understand there's going to be a little bit more jumping in a movie because you're trying to tell both stories at the same time,
and they're both really intense stories.
But it's done beautifully. And
so
with the movie, you don't necessarily know what's happening, whereas in the book, you're getting the inner dialogue, so you're understanding a lot more, a lot quicker. Whereas in the movie, it takes a little bit longer for you to like figure out, oh, okay. Like this is very much like a self-discovery, figuring out who, like for Jacob Elordi's character, he's playing this, he's like 20, 19.
Yeah, he's young when it starts. Yeah.
He's, he just got back from, is it the Korean War? I believe.
Yes, they're Korean. He's a Korean War veteran.
And he was discharged because he was gay.
Yeah, someone caught him and a man together.
Yeah, in the movie, you don't know that. You just know that he was discharged, and his brother tries to push him a little bit more on like, well, like, why are you able to come home? Like, I have 6 more months.
Mm-hmm.
And he just kind of doesn't really say anything. And I think the brother always knows, but it's kind of like this underlying thing. They never say the word gay.
In the book.
Movie.
Oh, in the movie.
In the movie.
In the movie, they don't say it, but there is this moment where Will Poulter, who's playing his brother Lee, who's married to Muriel, played by Daisy Edgar Jones, has a moment where they're sitting at the table. Lee thinks he's got it all, and he says, "There's nothing you can do that would make me not love you. I love you just exactly the way you are right now. I love you."
Yeah.
Which I think is his way in that time of saying, I know.
Yeah.
And he does make mentions throughout to Muriel, like, oh, there was this moment with this man. Yeah. And he's had this, but never says.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part of his inner battle is I think from the very beginning, Lee, you can tell, loves his brother unconditionally.
Oh,
There's literally
hard.
nothing. And he knows. He knows his brother is different. He might not understand fully, but he knows there's something different, and he loves him no matter what. And just wants to be there for him, just wants him to be a part of their lives. Like they talk about their futures together, building their future together, buying a house in California together.
That's their plan, right? Their plan is to take their discharge money, move to San Diego, and have a home together, the 3 of them.
Exactly. And I think both the movie and the book just paint, like the book maybe more so than even the show, because visually, obviously, you're seeing how incredibly like gritty the movie is and like how deep all of these things are. But in the book, Shannon describes these scenes so beautifully. Like you can literally see exactly where you are, what's happening, the smoke in the air, like all these different elements that just paint this picture of what's going on. And it's done so masterfully. Like this is crazy because for me, this is not a book that I would have picked up on my own and been like, oh, gotta read this.
Yeah.
But seeing the movie like unlocked this like, oh my gosh, I want to know these characters more. And that's exactly what you get with the book. You get so much more of their heart, their inner desires, their inner dialogue that you're not necessarily getting in the movie. Visually, it's a stunning movie.
It's beautiful.
The visuals are stunning. I love the fact that they include the horse. I was kind of like,
I know.
Is the horse going to have more of a tie-in?
I know.
And in the book, you do. You get so much more.
Also, Diego Calva, who plays Henry.
Yes.
Who is the man that Julius, played by Jacob Elordi, is in love with. Mm-hmm. And he goes to Vegas eventually after stealing from his brother.
Yeah.
But he goes to Vegas and he falls in love with Henry. And they are, what they do is they stand up in the rafters and watch people playing blackjack to make sure that they're not cheating and working with each other. Yeah. Because they're both thieves. Yeah. And he gets this job and he goes to the pit boss, who, by the way, is played by Patrick Swayze's brother. Mm-hmm. When I was looking up the credits, I was like, how the hell did I not realize that?
Yeah.
So there's this really beautiful love that they have together. Mm-hmm. And Henry, I think, is the first man who's made Julius feel okay to be a gay man with. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment where you get so much more of the Muriel and Julius love story in the movie. It doesn't really exist in the book as much.
No.
Muriel's almost, I think, jealous of Julius's ability to be more free and more open with himself. Mm-hmm. But in the book, Muriel falls in love with him like the minute she meets him. And there's this scene in her mother's house in Kansas where the two of them are drunk. Lee goes to bed and he says, "Have you ever been in love?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "I don't think so." And then she realizes what she said and she's like, "I mean, until now."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I haven't." And then they have this other, in the movie, they write each other postcards, right? And she is so head over heels in love with this man who she thinks Julius is.
Yeah, and she also like shares things with him that she doesn't share with her husband,
Like
Lee.
the horses.
Yeah, and I think too, you understand Mariel a lot more in the book because you get so much of her mother's history, which is
so much more.
a beautiful, like, it really shows you why Mariel is so driven to be her person, but also why she's so afraid to step out of that box because her mom had lots of boyfriends. Her mom was her own woman. She did what she wanted to do.
First woman to own her own home. First woman to go to college. First woman to own a car. Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of like, maybe I would feel better if I was married and had a husband that could take care of things and all this stuff. But the more she's in that life, the more she realizes, like, maybe I'm more like my mom than I realized. And then I think also because she's been in this little bit of a bubble, she starts doing the horse stuff where she's like, wait, I'm actually good at this. Like,
it's a little rebellion.
Yeah, like she starts out where she's kind of like listening in to the, the horse jockeys and the horse trainers and the horse, buyers or whatever. And then she starts learning like, okay, wait, that horse looks a certain way. That, that one does this or whatever it might be. And she starts learning and you can see how incredibly smart she is and how she's, as much as she tries to say like, oh, it's only because I got this information from these guys, she's the one that's making these choices based on her own, like, collecting all the data and then making decisions and then winning because she's been able.
Big.
Yeah.
She wins in the movie, she wins $12,000. In the book, it's not quite as much, I don't think. But there's also a beauty to those free moments where she's lying to her husband. He thinks she's got a day off of work.
Yeah.
And that's how it starts, right?
Yeah.
She leaves work early or she doesn't have work, changes quickly when she leaves work, goes to the horse track, does this thing, and tries to hide from the men in the...
Yeah, she doesn't want them to see.
She doesn't want them to see.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how to describe it, but she's got like I feel like it's the beginning of her unraveling this version of who she's presented herself to be. She's starting to realize, okay, I can pay the taxes on my mother's house. I don't have to sell it.
Yeah.
I can lie to my husband, say I sold it.
Yeah. Yeah, because the whole thing is Lee asks her to sell it so that they can buy their dream house.
Yes.
But she doesn't want to sell it.
Can we just talk for a second about how well Will Poulter played that character? Because you feel bad for him, but you're not rooting for him.
No, it's an interesting
And he did it perfectly because everything he's doing is the right thing. Yeah. He's so sweet and understanding and he doesn't care that his sister and his brother have this like friendship. He thinks it's amazing and it's like you feel bad saying it, but it's just like there's never a point in the movie where I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
Even in the book, I think it's more watered down in the book.
It is. And I was going to say, but do you ever feel like he was attracted to her because she's so like his brother? There's already that
There's
love,
something in there. Yeah,
right?
but
there's like that spark that he sees in her that he's attracted to, but without realizing it, it's also what he loves about his brother. And then he
wants to take care of someone.
He does eventually figure it out. Like in the movie, it's a little bit different than in the book, but they have that moment where they sit down in their house.
That scene.
Yeah.
They are sitting in what's supposed to be their nursery, and he catches her with the fucking smoke show.
Stunning neighbor.
Sasha Cal, who plays Sandra.
Who has olives.
Oh, my
and eggs.
God. I would... Oh, my God. Yeah, just give me 10 minutes with her.
Stunning.
And she's beautiful. But he catches her leaving what is essentially their breakup because she's been having this affair with Sasha, her neighbor. And he drives by and sees the two of them essentially breaking up, right? And
Well, because the whole thing is like the fact that she said to her, "Oh, my husband would never expect me to do this," and it's like a
just
moment
like,
of like,
oh, you're using me.
Oh.
I'm your breakaway bored housewife moment, which she's not,
right.
but she's.
That's how it feels.
That's how it feels,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe a little bit of it is too.
Yeah.
But that he doesn't yell. They don't say anything. They drive home. They sit down in the nursery with the weird clown wallpaper.
Yeah.
And they just cry.
Yeah, they don't really say anything.
And she puts her head on his shoulder, and you can just tell that, like, in that moment, I was like, oh, he's perfect. Like, he just loves her so much that I think he would rather her be happy without him than trap her in a marriage. Like, that's not what he wants.
And he also, that's when he tells her the story of the guy who,
you get it different in the story or in the book, but the story of Julius and the girl who had two guys going at once, and then she got engaged and it infuriated Julius. Mm-hmm. But there's just like that moment right there, that acting between the two of them. I was like, this is beautiful. That is not how I would react.
Yeah.
There would be screaming. There would be crying, but I think he's always known. A part of him is always known. Like you said, he's attracted to her because she needs to be helped.
Mm-hmm. I think he saw something in her that obviously he loves her, but I think there's something about her that he was attracted to, but I think it was because he loves his brother so much, and there's reasons he loves his brother so much, and it doesn't matter. All of the things that make his brother, I think also are present in Mariel. And so I think part of that is like, I get it now. Like, I understand.
Doesn't Julius say, you need to marry that girl because someone needs to tell that sad girl what to do?
And that breaks her.
That ruins her because she realizes, I am just a sad girl. And then she realizes, why am I sad? None of this is my truth.
Exactly. Which is like, oh, it's beautiful. I
think we just have to talk about the big, not saying we don't talk about, because let's just talk about the movie scenes with Sandra and Muriel are hot as hell.
When she shows up and the girl
book
answers.
It's such a funny scene.
It's so good.
But when she takes her out back, it's like,
know.
You just stand right there. I'm going to go down on you. No reason. And then you have a good night. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.
What? Where's that service?
I mean, it's just... I also really loved, like, when she finally gets brave enough to go to the Chester, and, like, when she sits down at the bar and Julius, like, comes up to her, the whole time, like, oh my God, she found him. Obviously, she has no idea who he is.
You mean Henry?
And, yes, that's what I mean.
Yes. Oh, my God, that scene when they dance. Stop. We were sobbing.
And then, like, in the side, like, obviously, on the flip side, you have Julius who's being beat.
Okay, that's what I want to talk about.
Yeah.
In the book, Julius is not as redeeming as he is in the movie, right? So they soften him a little bit in the movie.
Yeah.
He's also played by Jacob Elordi. So when you bring that beautiful piece of meat,
exactly.
It's pretty easy to be on his side.
Yeah.
But in the book, he's missing a tooth in the front that he's super embarrassed about.
Yeah.
But the love scenes between him and Henry in that hotel room, which they paint such a beautiful picture of in the book, but having seen the movie first,
I know that's what you see.
And it sounds like such a little thing, but they push their two twin beds together because they have to get a room with two beds, so that people don't think they're gay because it's illegal.
Yeah,
it's against the law. So they push their two little twin beds together, and they're just two. Oh God, I can't even handle it.
It's just
I cannot even handle it. And in the book, you don't get I don't want to say my heart hurts for Julius in the book, but it's not until he gets to Tijuana and is just getting the living shit kicked out of him and just risking his life. That whole section in Tijuana and him.
It's devastating.
And it's so much bigger in the book than it is in the movie. It's kind of like.
It's a much longer journey.
It's a much longer journey, and a lot more horrific things happen to him.
Yes.
And God, what a beautiful love story they have, because it's just, I don't want to spoil this.
I know.
I cannot wait to ask Shannon this.
I know.
But where do you come up with that idea of the wall and the notes? And I really liked the way that she did it in the book.
But like the book, and then with the movie, forget it. I was bawling,
crying my eyes out.
And then the fact that it's in the book too, and it's done in a very similar way, whereas like he looks at the wall and he sees the poker chip and the note. And
it's on the back of the racing receipt, which he found in the envelope. Like in the movie, he does not steal her big fat sack of cash envelope. And he does kiss her, like with tongue, before he leaves while she's sleeping in bed with her brother.
She's dreaming.
You're dreaming. Yeah. Oh, that is so fucking hot. Okay, and then
whoa.
Ew. And then he takes the money from the coffee can because in the movie, I think he does love her.
Yes. But in the book, I love the fact that it's explained, like he says, I had to take the money from the coffee can because I had to make it look like I didn't care. So that
because he wanted them to let him go.
Which I was like...
because he knew that his brother would love the shit out of him and love him into submission, and he couldn't do that. Like, he needed to find Henry. Henry is what he needed to do. And I don't want to, like, spoil it for people because this is in the movies now, but read the book so you can figure it out.
Yeah, and we get to, like, this is just part of our...
This is part of the episode.
Yeah.
So we actually are going to be talking to Shannon right after this.
Yeah.
So after this episode, after we say our bye, stick around because right after that, you're going to be able to hear us talk to Shannon about this and ask all these questions.
It might even be in the same episode.
It is going to be in the same episode.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
But I mean, like, don't go anywhere.
My brone broke.
Guys, her brone is broken. But also, that board, there's pictures of all these men and women, and it says, like, last scene.
It's heartbreaking.
I'll never stop loving you. I missed you at the pier. Like, just...
It's all, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Please come home.
And it's a mixture of, like, I knew that my son was gay or my daughter was gay, and this is a safe place for you to be that person. So I'm hoping that if I leave this here, please come home. I'll always love you. I'm sorry that I pushed you away. It's got men who fell in love together at war. I'm sorry that I didn't go with you. Like, women who met at anything. Yeah. I'm sorry that we didn't exchange numbers. It is the most, I don't want to say innocent because it's not innocent, but it's just like what life was like, what being in love was like before you could track everybody's every goddamn move. And what they had to do to hide who they were is absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, and I thought it was interesting. So in the book, something's covering that.
It's behind the desk.
He has to
lift it up. Yeah.
And in the movie, it's not. It's just on the board. But I appreciated the fact that in the book, it is covered because that's also protection, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the police come in and see this, is that like a list of all the people
there's names and
for,
pictures.
right?
Yes, exactly. And there's also a mystery maybe to it more. It's just like Julius goes there. He's not looking for that.
No.
He stumbles upon that trying to see what he can steal.
Yeah.
Like, it's not I'm looking here at this board, and he sees his name.
Yeah.
And then he sees the poker chip, and he's like, that cannot be a coincidence.
Yeah. And then the notes, too. Like, it's just...
Julius, I'm sorry. I can't. Although, in the book, you don't get that moment where you don't get Lee and Muriel's final goodbyes the way you do in the movie. You don't get it in the same way.
No, and the visual of, like, Muriel standing in her mother's house smoking a cigarette, that visual is
gorgeous.
It's epic.
I love it.
It's so badass. It's so, like, I did it. Like, I made my choices, and I am living the life I want to live.
I think she had that moment. Like, she knew. I think she always knew.
Yeah.
She was not going to stay with Lee, and that's why she wasn't getting rid of her mother's house.
Well, and I think, too...
She needed an out.
Yeah, and I think, too, what I found interesting is the ending for the movie with Julius, like, riding off on the horse. Like, that was another very visual thing that doesn't happen in the book either. But I think it was very like, it puts you in that space of like, he's never going to give up looking for Julius. I mean, for
Henry.
Henry.
Lots of names in this one.
I just can't with all the names. And I think that was a really cool way to see it.
I agree.
Because like, obviously you don't really get closure for them. But I think that's the point. I think it kind of shows how real this is and how fleeting all those moments were for them. And so like it makes it even more of like you're rooting for them because you want them to find each other.
Yeah. And you know what character we didn't talk about that I really appreciated in the movie and the book? It's a little bit different in the book, right? Mm-hmm. Like they have kind of this interaction, but Kat Cunning plays Gail, who is a woman that she wins lots of money with at the racetrack.
Lipstick.
The red lipstick, gorgeous.
Stunning, yeah.
And they're so excited at the racetrack to kiss on the lips. But everybody's just won money, right? So nobody notices that this happened.
Yeah.
And it just looks like two housewives.
Yeah,
because
she's with
her very rich husband.
Mm-hmm.
Who is gay. Mm-hmm. And so she gives her a box of matches or a book of matches, and it says the Chester.
Yeah.
And that is what brings her. She wants to see her again. Goes to the Chester. And this is in the movie.
Yeah.
In the book, it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
But Gail is that gateway for her to realizing that she's a really important character for her. Yeah.
Yes. It helps her discover herself, I think.
I mean, more questions to be answered because I'm so excited to ask Shannon all these questions.
Yeah.
But if you are looking for just a really beautiful, beautiful collection of love stories, both heartbreaking and uplifting, like this is, I like that we don't know about Henry and Julius. Yes. I like that we don't know what Muriel's life becomes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it kind of leaves it up to the imagination.
Yeah.
I
don't know. I loved it.
Yeah, I did too.
I was not expecting to love it much as I did.
Same.
Because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, and I think for me, like it's not something that I would have probably picked up on my own, but because it was recommended and then given to us to read, I'm glad.
It came out April 25th, and we saw it a couple days before it released. And it is just, man.
Go see it.
Go see it. It's a beautiful story about the relationship between two different brothers, between a husband and wife, between two people who recognize the fact that they're different in each other.
So I found this, and I thought this was a beautiful way to sum it up. It says that the book really dives into hidden desire, isolation, queerness, and freedom.
I mean, that's like, wow, perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
It's just okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah.
Highly, highly recommend.
Yeah. It's a watch it and read it.
It's a bother.
Yep. Bother.
Definitely a bother.
All right.
Bye. This is actually, we are very excited. You are our first guest, Shannon.
Yeah.
On the Watch It or Read It podcast.
Really?
Yes, we are super pumped to have you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. We were also lucky enough to get tickets to the screening, to the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
So we got to see it right before it came out. And a little bit about our podcast. What we do is it's called Watch It or Read It. We talk about what's better, the book or the movie. And usually the book's better.
Yeah.
But in this case, the movie was so beautiful. And we watched the movie before we read the book. And it was, what a beautiful, beautiful book.
Yeah.
And on screen, it was portrayed we were sobbing.
Yeah.
And we were in there with like 3 critics, maybe, dudes.
Yeah.
And we were just like, like blubbering.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of, we went into it blindly, so we didn't really know what to expect, and we were blown away. And then we got your book in the mail and devoured it, and the emotions.
One day.
Yeah, it was one of those things where the book and the movie are just so perfectly. They were great. They were perfect, and we enjoyed both of them equally. And we were super excited to get you on to chat with you about all of it.
Yeah, we're geeking out a little bit.
Yeah.
Nerding out over here.
Yeah.
Well, that's sweet. Thank you.
I
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it's your first watch it or read it impasse.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you actually want to tell us a little bit about yourself and like how you got into writing.
Yeah, I grew up in Kansas, and I feel like writing was something that I did from a very young age, like the sort of imaginative act, making up stories. I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and there wasn't a whole lot going on. So a lot of the action in my childhood took place in my head, I think. So that was my first, I don't know, brush with storytelling, I guess, was amusing myself. And then I actually went to graduate school to be like a regular old, like literary academic.
You know, the
Yeah.
old literary academic.
No big deal.
You know,
Well, I mean,
that guy with a graduate
I
degree.
didn't, I was like, a working class farm kid. It was like being a writer was like, it felt like a sort of pie in the sky, right?
Hmm.
Like that wasn't a thing you could ever do
Yeah,
for a
that's not for
living.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, but I wanted to have like I wanted a literary life, I
Mhm.
guess. Like that's what I wanted to have books around me. I wanted to make that as much a part of my life as I could. And going to graduate school felt slightly more practical, I guess. And then I was lucky enough. I was writing my dissertation actually, and had been doing some chapters of what became this book, just kind of to keep myself sane, writing a dissertation.
Yeah.
And I sent some of them in for the Stegner Fellowship at Stanford, and I was lucky enough to get it. And
It's
and then that
incredible.
changed my whole life.
Yeah. Exactly what you're supposed to be doing. We can tell you
Yeah.
that. Your prose and your writing style is so beautiful.
Yeah. It's like you write very poetically. Like your I mean, I guess it's world building, but like just your scenes and everything, they're just so beautifully written. Like
Oh,
it was really fun to read it because you write in a way that puts you right into the scenes with the characters. And it just really like I was feeling all the feelings these characters were going through as I was reading it, which was very emotional, but I love that. Like I love being consumed by the character that I'm reading.
Especially from Julius's point of view, right? Like just some of those scenes were so hard to digest on paper, and just knowing that these are only two stories of people living through this time who had to hide who they were, and it was like you said, your writing made me feel that just the hurt, the shame, the beauty, the love, the freedom. You can feel it, and it was, I think, also exciting for us too because having seen it portrayed on a big screen, as well as reading it on paper, was a really felt really lucky.
Yeah, and I
oh.
guess my next question would be what inspired the book? Where's your inspiration coming from?
Yeah, where'd this little
Yeah.
kernel of story live?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, first off, just thank you for all of that kindness. I mean, I'm glad that it spoke to you in that way. I mean, one of the things that I wanted to do was to try to kind of recreate these places and these relationships that we don't really have much record of. And certainly many of these places which went undocumented for obvious reasons. And so to pay really close attention to like the details of those places was a really important kind of motivating factor for me. I just wanted to bring these places to life and give people the opportunity to access them. But the sort of kernel of the story is like actually from my own family. I was very inspired by the life of my grandparents who were like my grandpa was a veteran and like disembarked in San Diego, and they kind of were there during that time in Southern California when like everything was booming, and I was so interested in that world and that time. And then the characters kind of, I for me anyway, characters like come from the dreamscape. Like Julius just sort of like arrived, and then I just had to sort of follow him. So I don't know. He doesn't feel like somebody that I created. He feels like somebody who emerged.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which I feel like you get as you're reading it. You feel like he's discovering himself as you're reading the words, which, like, clearly, as you're saying that, it feels exactly that way when you're reading each of the characters. It's very much they're changing and adapting and becoming who they are, going through these different trials and living through different moments that kind of make them who they are and who they're becoming. It was beautiful. It like makes me emotional thinking about it, because it's a really like beautifully, the way you handled all of their inner desires and like just building
brought it to page.
It's just you have like I don't know, it's like an elegance to your words. It's just as you're reading it, you just get the images, and then the fact that we also got to see the movie, it really just builds this beautiful story. And it's like stories that aren't necessarily told on a wide scale. Like these are the stories that should be told, and it's beautiful.
I'm particularly glad that you liked the film. I mean, one of the things that struck me about it the first time I saw it was just how like faithful to so much of the details of the book it was. And they changed some things with like certain aspects of the plot and pacing and other things like that. But like, I got to visit the set when they were filming, and it was one of the scenes where Julius is like in the casino.
Oh man,
like,
yeah.
And it was amazing. I mean, it's amazing how many people it takes to make a movie.
Yeah.
But like they had rented out this like old actually movie theater, like an AMC movie theater in like some suburb of LA, and they made like the whole thing look like this casino. And it was like, I mean, down to the ashtrays, like had the little logo
That
on
is
them
amazing.
It was wild. It was, I mean, to think like they marshaled like 400 people and millions of dollars to like make this place that
to tell your story too, man.
Yeah.
What a feeling.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's perfect. I was actually just going to say, was there, when you obviously going and seeing it be filmed is one thing, but then when you saw the movie, was there anything like in the writing that when you saw it on screen that like really hit deeply? Like, was there something that you had written and you were looking forward to seeing how they would bring it to screen?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I think they did such an amazing job with was like Daisy Edgar Jones' costumes. So much of what she's wearing and the way that she's styled is like so exactly the way that it was in my mind. I mean, she's a little more beautiful than I kind of thought Muriel would be, but like, in my mind, Muriel's a little more plain. But I think the way, I mean, the costuming in particular.
Yeah.
Also the scenes at the racetrack, which I think they shot at Santa Anita. Some of those scenes at the racetrack are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're beautiful.
Those were things that surprised me. But you know what really got me was the musician Lauren Kramer, who's fantastic. I only got to meet him briefly, but he's a wonderful, wonderful musician. Wrote an original song for the film, and it's called "Song for Henry." And I just thought, that really got me.
Yeah.
That like this person that I sort of invented and imagined and whatever like has this life in the music and this beautiful song that someone wrote for him.
Yeah.
So that was very moving.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah. It's interesting too that you say the costumes, because I think one of the scenes in the movie that I really loved visually seeing is the scene where Mariel is kind of fixing her hair and just kind of like pulling it back. And it's just such a like, you can see her so clearly in that moment, and to see it come to life on screen, I'm sure like, I mean, again, for me, seeing that, it was incredible. It was really cool. The visual was great.
Yeah. I mean, we had a serious girl crush on, Daisy Edgar Jones. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Annoying.
Yeah.
How good looking she is. I forget what the actress's name is that played Sasha. What's her name?
Sasha Callie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Sasha Callie is Sandra. And she came on screen and we were both like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hello.
Yeah.
We were both like, oh my God.
Well, and I guess I think too, like for you, were you able to have, like, how involved in that process are you able to be with the casting and kind of, or is that all just the producers and stuff?
Give it over?
Not at all. I mean, the people who optioned the movie were or the book were Dan, the director, and Peter Spears, one of the producers, and I had, this was during COVID actually, like, and so I had a number of like Zoom calls with them and just sort of talking through the characters and the story, and they were very, very kind to like involve me and be interested in what I felt about it, but I don't know anything about making movies.
Yeah.
So
well, you say that,
so
but your book, it reads like a movie.
Yeah.
I could see maybe it's because we saw the movie before, which never happens on this podcast. We are really kind of purists to the book before the movie, but I don't know. I felt like I could see it, and I will tell you that I saw that you were a bartender, and just so another thing that we do on this podcast is we make a cocktail for each episode, and this one was so amazing because I was like, we're obviously doing a stinger, like. Yeah. Such a, as a bartender, like if someone ordered a stinger at the bar right now and I was bartending, I'd be like, are you a time traveler? Who's ordering that? But like, for that time and like what that represented, it was like a sign of wealth to be able to drink like a cognac. And we just talked about it earlier because we recorded the episode on the book before we got to speak to you today. And just, I love the masculinity of the stinger cocktail, and just seeing Daisy Edgar Jones walking into the Chester and ordering that cocktail because she's uncomfortable and it's a place of comfort for her to order that cocktail, and then watching her drink it. It was just like such a badass, hot, and emotional scene at the exact same time. And I love that lives in the book. And it was just like, yes, she ordered a stinger. We were so excited.
Yeah. The first time I ever heard of a stinger too was because of Beaches. Do you remember the movie Beaches?
Oh yes. It's on our list.
Yeah. Because Bette Midler's character like walks into some bar and she's like, give me a stinger. And it just felt like this thing that like a confident broad.
Yes.
Right? Like, and it always sort of stuck with me. Like, probably when I was a bartender for a number of years, and I don't think anybody ever ordered a stinger.
Me either.
But, but it was like, it stuck with me as this thing of like, there was a connotation to it that had a kind of masculinity and toughness and confidence and like, yeah.
I loved it.
Good. Did you make one?
We didn't have one today because we had to keep going. We didn't want to be drunk for you.
Yeah. We usually
we were nervous. We were nervous.
We want to ask you so many questions.
We were nervous. And the other thing that I really want to touch on, because I don't think I've been so moved by a very small but very poignant piece in a book before, was, in the movie they portrayed a little bit more different, but all of the notes and the photos and the way that Muriel leaves Julius that note, and the way we talked about, Dale, you brought up how it's hidden in the book, is just such a, is that inspired by something that really exists, or is that just you kind of also trying to show how secretive their lives had to be, but these really beautiful love stories, like, try as they might, gay people are always going to exist, universe, whether you want to hide them or not, they are going to exist. And that moment is just so beautiful, but also so, so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. I came across some things in my own research that kind of suggested the existence of that kind of like message board sort of thing, but there wasn't anything that like really, like, there was not an archive, right, where these sorts of things were documented. So in some ways it's kind of an invention, but I was just sort of thinking about it practically, like something like this must have existed. Like, I remember the like missed connections section in like the weekly newspaper when I was 20 or whatever, before there was social media. But this is like a really deep human urge, right? To sort of connect in this way, to wonder about people that you have only kind of glancing contact with. And then I think especially to be in communities where there was so much peril. There must have been people who came and went, disappeared, right? Were there one day and not the next. And that this would have been an aspect of their lives that they had to find ways to manage, because people are actually really practical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When you get down to it.
Absolutely.
Like, even when you live in great difficulty, like, people are very practical about figuring out ways around that. So anyway, the board seemed like a way to broaden the story beyond just the few characters who are in it, like to kind of remind people, like, there's a much larger context in which these characters would have existed, where there were other people like them who have been largely kind of erased by history.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. It was a beautiful, like, for the movie, but then also in the book, like, the visual for the movie was, at that point, like, we were already emotional,
Puddles.
but seeing that, because it kind of, scrolls over the board, so you're seeing all these different photos and notes and little, trinkets and stuff that people have put up there. And then when you're reading it, it's the same impact, like the visual and your words. You still get that same emotion from both of those.
I think I got more. I'll say in the book, it hit me a little bit deeper because it was hidden, and it's just like you said. These people have been largely erased by history. Their loves. That's not just the story of Henry and Julius and Muriel, and it's everybody's Henry and Julius and Muriel's and all of these stories. And there's so many of them. And I love it because I feel like there's going to be somebody who watches the movie or reads the book, and that's going to be their story. They will have left this beautiful message for somebody that, in passing they couldn't love. And it like hits you because like everybody always says, like, that's somebody's baby, and that's how I felt in that moment. And the fact that it was hidden, the way that Julius finds it is just so, and we live by, I live now by Bethel Woods, and she grew up by Bethel Woods where Woodstock was held. And in the Woodstock Museum, that is a part of the museum. They have all of the misconnection notes that people wrote each other, and you can go in and record a video, and they save them there, and you can search by name, and you can watch the videos, and it's really sad because some of them are like, Sarah, it's me. If you don't remember Tommy, we fell in love. It was the best 4 days of my life. I think about you every day. I'm married now with kids. My wife knows. It's like a really beautiful little time capsule in history, and I guarantee that your words, somebody's going to read them and be like, oh, that was just like my parents' bar or my grandparents' bar. We had something like that. And I don't know. I think that it was a really beautiful moment that you created for people.
Thank you. That means a lot. I'd love to see
you.
that.
Yeah.
Woodstock. I mean, because so much of you asked earlier about the sort of kernel of the story, like, part of what I wanted and what I'm really happy they've been so faithful to in the book or in the movie is that I wanted Muriel and Julius to have that kind of, like, there's a sort of instant connection. It maybe makes a little more sense to Julius than it does to Muriel, but it's kind of mysterious to both of them. And, like, the book is really about them figuring out what that connection consists of. They're on stage together, like, hardly at all, but their relationship and their connection is really kind of like the animating force of the story. And I really thought of it that way. Like, and that part of what happens at the end of like what Julius realizes at the end of that book is that there's something about Muriel's bravery and her coming to know herself that enables this love in his life. Right. And that felt like a story I hadn't heard. about the way that people could perform those roles for each other.
Yeah.
But I think we all have experienced that.
Absolutely.
Right? Like somebody who sort of comes into your life and like maybe you don't even actually spend that much time with them, but they send you in a new direction.
Yeah, they almost give you, like, people that give you permission to show that side of yourself or explore that side of yourself.
Yeah.
And they were definitely that for each other. And we were also mentioned earlier, I love that I don't know what happens to Lee. I love that I don't know what happens to Muriel. I love that, like, I love thinking of Muriel, like in the movie where they show that shot of her just on her mom's porch smoking a cigarette. But I just love that, like, she's gonna be okay. And I in my head, of course, you know, Julius and Henry are living to be 100 together somewhere somewhere in Tijuana.
Yeah.
But I just felt so, you know, like when you have books and you shut the last page and you're like, oh, I want more. It just felt like a hug. I just felt like, you know, it was a perfect, like, Lefin, it's done there, you know. This is,
I'm glad. You know, that not everybody feels that way, but to me it was like, and a book has to end somewhere.
Yeah.
And to me it was sort of like an act of generosity to kind of like give the end of the story to the reader.
Yes.
Like, you know, I feel like I've gotten you to this point. You get to fill in the rest. It gets to be whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you get to make it a happy ending. Like, or
I
a
watched,
sad ending.
exactly.
Yeah.
I watched a TikTok actually yesterday about someone who read the book, and it was she was so funny. She's like, I want to think about Muriel. She's back in Kansas. She probably runs for mayoral candidate or something. She's probably the first mayor because her mom was the first one to get a car.
Yeah.
But it was like really funny because she was just all fired up about it. But the other thing that she said that really stuck with me is, it's none of my business what they do after these moments. They shared the vulnerable parts of their lives and their story. Now they get to live their truths, right? Like, they already shared the important parts of their story. It's none of our business. They get to live their lives. You got to hear how we got here. And I just love, I kind of love that. Like, it's not our business.
Yeah.
They shared the most vulnerable and hardest parts of their lives with us. And now they get to live whatever the end of their happy ending is. And, you know, we go live ours.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You're making me feel like I should be on TikTok.
Don't.
Very wise.
I was gonna say,
Waste so much time on there.
I was gonna,
I was like, that's way more wisdom than I was expected, you know, than I was led to expect. Yeah.
Sometimes you
anyway,
get
no,
good
that's
wisdom.
really, I love that idea, right?
Yeah.
That the story, that the characters have sort of left it all on the court. They,
Yeah,
right?
they've given
they gave
everything.
You what they had to give you, and like,
Yeah.
now they get to go off and you know, live
Do
their
their thing.
lives.
Yeah.
I think that was for me too, like reading Lee's character. It's something I talked to Amanda before we came on here with you, is I think what I took away from Lee's character was the fact that he saw in Mariel what he saw in his brother, and that's why he loved her so deeply. Like, there was obviously a connection with his brother, and I think like in your book you talk about it a lot more, whereas in the movie it's much more subtle. They don't really use the word gay or like say anything like that. And I think as I was reading it, like, you could really feel how he loved her and his brother so unconditionally. He just wanted to have them both in his life
And protect them.
Yeah, to like keep them safe, keep a roof over their heads. And then at the end, the fact that she then gives him that freedom to go find his happy, and she goes to find her happy, and Julius goes to find his happy. It was just such a beautiful way to just tie all those characters, like truly, truly showing that unconditional love. Like, he loved them so much that he was like, you go live your life. I'm going to go live my life. He's going to go live his life, and I will love you always. And it was, it was beautiful. Yeah.
Well, you know, there's this wonderful, the writer Ian Lee has this amazing story called Gold Boy, Emerald Girl. And I don't know if you've ever read it.
No.
It's an amazing story. I teach it actually often in like intermediate writing classes, but it's kind of like a triad, and it's set in Beijing. And it's a mother and her sort of student with whom she has an intense connection, and her son. And I won't say any more about it, but it
Don't,
has
because I'll be reading it
Yeah,
tonight.
I wrote it down.
it has this like gentle, it has this very gentle heart, where like in a story where there could be lots of antagonism, there's just a kind of reaching toward and an attempt to understand. And but it has this, the ending of it is so beautiful because it's about like people who are trying to find a way to accommodate each other's sadness, right? And that's kind of how I thought about Lee, is like all of them really, but particularly him, that
Yeah.
you know, I didn't want him to be the bad guy or the antagonist or someone from whom the other characters had to escape in order to be free, right?
Yeah.
That I really wanted him to like just be somebody who couldn't provide what the other folks were like, certain aspects of what the other characters were looking for, or they couldn't provide it for him, and that was something that everybody could figure out and love each other through. And like, I don't know, that felt really important to me, that there wasn't that kind of antagonistic force.
Yeah.
I appreciated that
I was
because
gonna say, you feel it
feel
the
it.
whole time.
and we kind of talk about how it's like you're never really rooting for Lee, but you're never rooting against him. You know, it's not like, oh, I wish she would just love Lee. It's, you want her to be free and you want her to love the way she deserves to love. But you also want Lee to, he deserves a wife and kids and that little house that he wants so badly, and to not have the childhood that he was, thrust upon him. And he deserves that. And I think that, a part of Muriel loved him enough to give him that, and that's her way of giving him that. And then Lee, he's never going to hate Julius. And Dale had brought up about how in the book you said that like he had to take the money out of the coffee can because he needed Lee to be so mad at him that he would forget him, but Lee never will. And that's the beautiful part about it. And I just, I hope that someday Lee and was just hosting Henry and Julius at his house with his wife and children.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too. Yeah, there's a line in the movie that's not in the book, where, because Muriel like leaves Lee a note, right? And she says something about how his dream is a good dream.
Yeah.
And I really liked that because that's so clearly, that's how I thought of it too. It's like his dream is a good dream. It's just not hers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such a hard thing to know in a relationship.
There's
So
no
I loved
blame.
that part of it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And that scene in the movie that's not in the book, but I think they did it because you don't get in the book we get so much of Muriel and who she is on the inside, and you learn so much about Lee and Julius's childhood that you don't really get in the movie. So that scene, like you said, Lee is just like this really soft, tender heart where they're sitting in the nursery and they're saying goodbye to each other and they're just sitting there both crying because they know it's over. I mean, you get that feeling in the pages of the book, but I know why they had to give you that scene in the movie, but it was just like, really? We're crying more now?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Go through all the emotions.
Jeez Louise, like, haven't we done this enough already? But
I love that scene though. And
Me
I think
too.
it's so beautifully, I mean, Will Poulter, that's so beautifully acted.
Yeah.
I think that's really his kind of like he just comes through
Yeah.
in that moment. But yeah, it's tough. It's a tough
It
one.
is.
And, it's sort of like, in this nursery, which like, is this sort of physical or material embodiment of like the imagined future and like the thing that they're losing. And
Yeah, in that scene, we both looked at each other in the theater. We're like, are you kidding me right now?
You're doing this to me right now.
Yeah.
Exactly. And he's just so tender, and like the story he tells, it was very beautifully done.
We really, really appreciate you talking to us, especially despite all the technical difficulties in the beginning. Thanks for sticking it out.
This was incredible for our first author chat. This was so great.
Yeah, I was your first. I'm flattered.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
And do we have anything to look forward to, or are you just taking a big, deep breath right now?
Yeah.
I'm finishing something, so hopefully soon. We'll see. We'll see. But I'm working pretty hard on it. So
That's incredible. Well, we'll have to have you back on.
We're gonna have you back.
After.
We'll have you back.
Yeah.
well, hopefully someone will have to make it into a movie, I guess.
Yeah.
No, you don't have to make it
exactly.
into a movie. We'll have you back on without it.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
We'll fan cast it.
Yes,
we like to do that
It'll just
too.
we could just do like read it or listen to the audiobook.
Exactly.
There you go. We're love that.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And then our dream castings.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
so
And thank you for sharing this story with the world. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Bye, Shannon.
Bye.
Bye.